Hello students, today we will be talking about human nervous system. So before we begin our topic, we'll learn that how our body coordinate various functions. For example, when you are walking, what all things are involved? Our muscles are involved, our bones are involved, but how are the bones being coordinated with the help of muscles? For that we may require hormones. So we will learn first about, let us write the topic, nervous system. Before we begin this nervous system, I would like to discuss with you here about coordination. Coordination means regulatory mechanisms. Regulatory mechanisms of our body. Means whatever activities we perform, we have certain regulatory mechanisms which help us to work properly and do our work in such a way that we don't feel that we are doing something abnormal. So regulatory mechanism, so coordinations, we have two systems. We have two systems which regulate or coordinate our activities. What are the two systems? First one is neural system, neural or nervous system, as it is related with nerve cells, so we may also call it nervous system. Second system is endocrine system, or it is hormonal system. So these two systems, they regulate our various activities. Here we will be talking about the first system we have is nervous system. So let us begin with this topic. So when we talk of our nervous system, let us learn the hierarchy of organization. Hierarchy of nervous system. How it is developed from small animals to higher animals. If you see, lowest level that we can have is nerve cell, or we call it neuron. Neurons, when in some animals you may find like knot of nerve cells, we call ganglion, and these ganglion, or in some other animals you may find it like nerves or a bundle of nerves. Further modification may occur and you may find well developed nervous system. Well developed nervous system we may find. Like for example, you take human beings. We have well developed nervous system. So we won't be talking much about ganglion and other things. We will start with nerve cell and then we'll study about human nervous system. So any animal's nervous system you take, it is neuron or nerve cell. That is the smallest unit. So we call it the functional, means it operates, it is the cell which is involved in performing various activities. Functional and structural. Functional and structural unit of nervous system is called what? Neuron. The basic structure, if you would like to understand, you will find these branching like structures. These are dendrites. Then comes dendron. Then this one is cell body, cyton, or also called cell body. Then if one of the dendron extends further, gets elongated, such elongated structures we call axon. This cell body has got its nucleus and it has nuclear granules. These are nuclear granules. This axon is covered with a spatial sheath. I am modifying only one place, so try to understand. This is called myelin sheath. Then even it has got nucleus. So nucleus is there. Then that membrane is there, that is called neurilemma. Neurilemma, in some books you may find as neurolemma. You must have studied like cell membranes are there. So similarly here in case of nerve cells, the nerve cell membranes or the myelin sheath membranes, we call it neuri or neurolemma. That is what is important over here. Then axon endings are there. So here knob-like structures is called axon ending. So when message is received by dendrites, then it goes to the cell body, then through axon the message is passed on to the nerve ends. And here it is not that our body has only single nerve cell, there are millions of nerve cells and they are connected in the form of wire for the transmission of impulses. Here, if this is one nerve cell, there is another nerve cell which may begin from here. And the gap over here is called synapse. Gap is called synapse. So now we will be learning how that gap is bridged up when the impulse has to be transferred from one nerve cell to another nerve cell. So let me just tell the pathway of impulse movement along the length of a neuron, means how the impulse is traveling, moving along the length of a neuron. So first part, you should know that dendrites receive the impulse, they pass the impulse to dendron, where signal is generated or the impulse is generated by having certain chemical reactions. Then it goes to cytone, or we call it cell body. Then further it moves to axon, and through axon it goes to neuron. We will not use the term nerve over here. Let us say neuron ending. And then comes synapse, the gap between two nerve cells. Now we will be trying to understand how the impulse is transferred from one nerve cell to another nerve cell. So impulse transmission at synapse. So how the impulse is transferred from one nerve cell to another, let us understand. We will draw a diagrammatic nerve ending. Let us imagine that this is end of one nerve cell and there is a gap over here between two nerve cell endings. Now here, before the gap, so we will use the term presynaptic node, and another one after the gap, so we will call it postsynaptic node. Here there is a gap called synapse. Now, what happens when the impulse reaches to this point? When impulse reaches to this point, there are calcium ions. Which try to push the vesicles towards the end or towards the synapse. So when the vesicles move, they release the neurotransmitter into the synapse or the gap between the neurons. So the vesicles, these are vesicles releasing neurotransmitter. These are the chemical compounds which are temporarily released at synapse, and they are taken up back, or they are reabsorbed when the impulse has already passed to the next neuron. So these vesicles, they release the neurotransmitter and the gap is bridged up. Once the gap is bridged up, that impulse, there are channels to pass the impulse. So through these channels, the impulse will get transferred to the next neuron, and further it goes, it moves. So here it is important to understand that when the impulse reaches to the presynaptic node, calcium ions stimulate the movement of vesicles, and then the neurotransmitters are released into the synapse. The gap is bridged up, and once the gap is bridged up, the impulse directly passes to the next neuron, and this is how the conduction is carried out at synapse.